Well, thank you everyone for attending. My name is August, and I'm the executive director of the LGBTQ History Project. Today, we have a panel that was all active in the gay liberation revolution that swept the country and the world after the Stonewall Rebellion in 1969. We have Tahara, aka James Windsor, who was in Berkeley Gay Liberation. We have Perry Brass, who was in the New York City Gay Liberation Front, and Warren Blumenfeld, who was in the Washington, D.C. Gay Liberation Front. Today, I have some questions, but we're also going to focus on actions that happened that people may not know about, and also talk about one person who you want the world to know about as well. So, going in chronological order, I'm going to start with Tahara.
Yeah.
Tahara, how did the relationship between, or what was the relationship between theater and gay liberation in Berkeley?
Uh, oh, you're already jumping way ahead of me. I was gonna kind of start by mentioning what it was like without gay liberation. And I was raised in Texas. My father was a rodeo clown, and he was also a fundamentalist Christian. And when I was 7 years old in 1957, my father decided to put me into his rodeo clown acts, and I was to play his midget wife. I was 7 years old. So this is 1957. I started dressing in drag uh, in the rodeo acts, and I did that for till 1968 when I was 17. And we performed in hundreds of cities all over Texas, little towns all over Texas and Oklahoma in the rodeo act. But he was also a fundamentalist Christian, and he hated gay people. I mean, it was just, like really didn't thought it was an abomination, Christian. And so I had kind of two personalities in me. One was this closeted gay person that could never talk about it, never could act on it, wasn't allowed to show any feeling that way. And then this enforced heterosexual side, where I had to show interest in girls and, do things like play sports and stuff like that. And I was none of that. So I kind of had a secret life and a fake life, and I wasn't happy. And I was living in Henrietta, Texas, a little tiny town, and it was all cowboys, what they now call toxic masculinity. But so we moved to Dallas when I was 13, and there I met a boy in high school that was gay, although he didn't. His mother did not mind that he was gay. This is 1965, I think.
Wow.
And his mother didn't mind that he was gay, but he was so bullied in school, he almost never came to school. And he missed a lot of school. But he and I met and became friends, and he lived near me. So I used to go visit him. And like I said, his mother didn't mind he was gay. So he had gay friends. And that's when I first began to meet other gay men and see. It was a very small scene, in Dallas. The gay scene really was. I was only 15, so there was this whole element of, underage and all that stuff. But my mother found out somehow that I was involved with these men, and my father, being a fundamentalist Christian, I had to go to Christian, what do they call it when they want to convert you away from pray the gay away stuff? What is that called?
Conversion.
Christian conversion. And I had to read the Bible 4 hours a day and answer questions. And if I didn't get the religious questions right, I was beat and all that stuff. And there was nothing, absolutely nothing gay at all in the world, other than occasionally meeting somebody. But it was nothing in the media unless it was a crime. And so it was a very dark, life for gay people. Plus, you were constantly bullied. I mean, in school, I was bullied constantly. Sometimes I was quite severely. Anyway, so I met him, and then I had to give him up. My friend, his name was Gary, the gay boy I met in high school. I had to give him up and start becoming heterosexual, dating girls and all that stuff. And uh, finally, the summer of love happened. This is 67. And I said, oh, I got to go there. What am I doing here? So I left, went out to California, and within a couple of weeks after I got here, they formed a gay liberation group in Berkeley. I came to San Francisco, but it was you probably heard of the famous San Francisco summer. You know, the coldest winter I ever spent was a San Francisco summer. And so to me, coming from Texas in hot weather, it was like winter. So I moved to Berkeley. It was warmer over there. It was across the bay. And I got into gay liberation, and I was really nervous. I wasn't out of the closet. And but I was a theater person, and so we wrote a play. We had meetings at one of the gay person's house. It was mainly the college boys, college students. It was, I think, 8, 10 of us, something like that. And that most of them were going to the University of Berkeley. And we wrote a play at our meetings. It was a gay play about being gay. And it was kind of based on Laugh-In, which was a popular TV show. You tell jokes and stuff. And we performed it at the Berkeley University on campus in the main square. Uh, and at first, there was a lot of protest in Berkeley in those days against the Vietnam War. But at first, so everybody came, they were excited, oh, another protest. But when they heard it was gay and we were talking about fucking ass and stuff, there was dead silence. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop, and there was like 500 people there. Everybody was just like, "Oh God, what is this?" And I was embarrassed. I had a line that said I had raped the entire Vienna boys choir. And after the performance, everybody just walked away in dead silence. It was very strange, except I think there was a woman that liked it a lot. She was happy. Uh, and that was the first thing we did in the gay liberation. Uh, but we continued. We had protests. I can't remember how many times a week, but we had a lot of protests. We were protesting the bars, the gay bars at that time did not allow men to touch or dance together or anything. You had to pretend it was a straight bar and it was just men in a heterosexual bar, or something. But we protested those places. We also protested a lot of the gay bars in those days were still racist. They segregated. They did not allow black people into the white gay bars. So we protested there. And of course, everybody pretty much hated us. The radicals liked us, but the oh God, it was you could get beat up and stuff like that. But finally, the Examiner wrote an article about us. The Examiner, San Francisco's major newspaper, wrote an article about gay liberation and said it was all perverts and it was sick and the churches were outraged, and so we protested there. And I was wearing drag at that. I was dressed up in Tibetan clothing and dancing, and these guys on the roof, the printers of the newspaper, went up on the roof with a 50-gallon drum of purple ink. and they dumped it onto the sidewalk. There must have been 100 of us there protesting, and it got all over everybody. And there were some people in gay liberation. I should talk, just mention them because they were such enormous figures. Uh, Pat Brown was one of them. He was one of these extremist, radical gay people. He wanted to burn everything, and the government needed to be overthrown, and he was that one. And then there was Gary Allender, who August has interviewed. He was kind of the leader of the group, and he was a college student at Berkeley, and he was very practical about what we needed to do and what the focus was. And then the other one was Constantine Berlant. He was like the vice president. I don't know if you heard of him or not.
Yeah, he was a close friend of. We became close friends.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love
And he
Connie.
was a nice guy. I liked him a
Yeah,
lot.
most people loved him. He started Gay Sunshine, the paper Gay Sunshine.
That's right. That's right. And he was the sort of the vice president, and he was also very radical. Another burn everything. And so we protested at the Examiner, and Pat Brown screamed, "Put your hands in the ink and touch your handprints to the newspaper wall." And people did, and it was soon covered with purple handprints. And that was, as I recall, the first. I don't know about the East Coast, but the West Coast, that was the first symbol of gay liberation. Was, pardon me, the purple handprint. And then we protested some more and did all kinds of stuff. Met a lot of people, a lot of interesting people. And then I after that I got into theater with a group called the Cockettes. I won't go into all that. That's another
Thank
story.
you. Thank you.
But uh, so I got out of gay liberation at that point. The other thing I have to say for
Wait,
me for
Tahara.
gay liberation, huh?
We have to keep it going, but I have more
Okay,
questions.
wait, I'm just about finished, I promise. I just wanted to say all this because I think the prehistory is a little important. Uh, and what really happened in gay liberation, other than just the historical dates and stuff. When I was in gay liberation, I was 18 years old, and I had a hard time. The gay liberation was great. It was very uh, uh, liberating, and I felt free for the first time in my life. But I had an interior struggle with gay sex in that it was very difficult for me to have gay sex because I really, every time I had sex, I would begin shaking horribly. And it was all a reaction to the oppressive bringing up anti-gay I had to deal with. And I don't think that was really discussed. It was discussed in psychiatric books, but the gay liberation people, we never talked. We were too happy to talk about stuff like that. So later on, I learned if I drank, I could relax during having sex and stuff. And so I started drinking then. But that was one of the problems I had was the intimacy. Also, I wanted a boyfriend, and it it just didn't happen. Nobody was into me. I don't know why. But and you'd think you'd find a boyfriend, but no. Anyway, I'm sorry I took so long. I just wanted to
No,
kind of
it's all good. Thank
explain
you,
a
Tahara.
little bit. If
So now,
other people want to talk for a while, I don't mind. I pretty much uh, will just listen.
thank you, Tahara. So we'll go to Perry next in order. What did New York look like organizing on the ground, and what strategies did you utilize? And can you transition that into the event in August?
Uh, the organization that we had in the Gay Liberation Front was very much a kind of person to person organization in the fact that we very quickly divided the GLF into consciousness raising groups. So each CR group had about 8 people in it, and there were guys CR groups, women's CR groups, and then a couple of mixed CR groups. So if you had 8 people in a CR group, it meant that if you had to get something out, you would have these 8 people, and they would talk to, let's say, each one would talk to 5 people. So you'd have 40 people to deal with, to talk to, or they'd talk to me, 10 people. You had 80 people to talk to. Anyway, we didn't have, as far as organization, we didn't have the internet. We had very almost no media except underground papers, although they were flourishing. And I used to say that we did a lot of organizing between the sheets. I mean, you'd go out to bars and leaflet, and people, because you were involved with gay liberation, a lot of people in New York were interested in what we were doing. There wasn't as much pushback in New York as I gather there was in San Francisco and Berkeley, especially in Berkeley. I mean, you had people who were too repressed to come to us, but sometimes we would go to them. And we did, these amazing things, like we started doing political organizing at the baths. We figured this is a way to get guys who are not going to be coming to a meeting, who, are often in the closet, but they want to know what we're doing. So we do political organizing in the baths, we do it in the bars, we do it outside the bars. It was very much a physical connection with people. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Can you talk about the protest in May with time that was at Times Square and worked its way down?
Yeah. Uh, I hope I live close to the rail. I live above railroad tracks, so occasionally things get a little noisy. Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about an action that GLF was involved with that took place on Saturday, August 29th, 1970. And what it was it was a reaction to, here we were basically 1 year and 2 months after Stonewall, and the cops in New York were getting sort of licking their chops again. They figured that there are going to be ways for them to make money, for them to do payoffs. And there were a number of hustler bars in Times Square, so they started going into these hustler bars and arresting people in the hustler bars for either male prostitution or for consorting with prostitutes. And this was really going on, and we heard from a number of guys who'd been arrested in the bars. There was a very famous bar called Blue, and they had arrested probably 80 people at Blue. So a week before this action happened, some people came from Blue, and they talked to the people in GLF, and said, we're really feeling it from the cops. Like the cops had kind of slowed down a bit in their activities, certainly in the summer before, or during the earlier part of that summer. They had slowed down their activities because right after the first march, the Christopher Street Liberation Day March in June, I mean, it was like they couldn't be shits anymore for a while. So they were slowing down, and then we're in August, and the machinery's going back again. And I'm sure a lot of this was they wanted more payoffs. So the Gay Liberation Front, the Gay Activist Alliance, the women's group, Radical Lesbians, and I think also the gay youth group that was involved with GLF, we came up with this idea that we would do a big demonstration in Times Square on 42nd Street. So I went down there with my GLF family, which was basically a wonderful man named Tom Finley, whom I lost to AIDS, and about 3 other guys I was very close to, kind of like for physical and moral support. And there were, I would say, 300 people in this demonstration. And what we did was we just walked up and down one block of 42nd Street, which I'm sure was between Broadway and 8th Avenue, with signs and there's a piece in the GLF newspaper come out about it, and this shows the cover of Come Out. You can see, and
Are you in that picture?
no, I'm not in that picture. I'm definitely not in that picture. But Martha Shelley, who is like one of the leading voices in GLF and in at Come Out, she wrote this wonderful piece called "Gays Riot Again," and it was about what happened at this demonstration. So we were picketing up and down this block of 42nd Street. And you have to remember at that time, 42nd Street was like considered the cesspool of New York. It was filled with porno shops, with prostitution, all those wonderful old legit theaters that had once, had stars in them, had become like third run movie theaters with a lot of sex going on in the balconies. I mean, 42nd Street had become a place that you didn't bring kids anymore. And it was also like the cops were always on the move in that area in Times Square because it was a good area for them to nab people. Like if you want to rob a bank, if you want money, you go rob a bank. If you want to arrest people, you go to Times Square. So we did this for, I would say, an hour, and then the cops started to literally circle us and mash us, letting us know that if we didn't get the fuck out, we were going to be arrested. So the word got around, we've got to leave, and quick. So we all started, I would say, walking at a fast trot downtown. And I was with, like I said, my GLF family, these guys I was very close to. So we walked downtown, and another word got out that the same time that we were having this demonstration in Times Square, they were busting a hustler bar in the West Village. So a lot of the protesters went to that hustler bar in the West Village to protest, and then the cops from the West Village precinct started to swoop down on them. And basically what happened was a lot of people from GLF ended up at 6th Avenue and 8th Street. And you probably don't realize that there's a part of 6th Avenue that's very wide when it hits 8th Street. And the cops had stopped the traffic, so that it became like this kind of theatrical ground for something to happen. And the cops brought in their what they called the tactical police force, which was their anti-riot, anti-demonstration squad. And the tactical police were hated all over New York. They were the ones who usually beat up peace demonstrators, threatened, gay demonstrations. They brought them in by the busload. So all these tactical cops were there, and they started grabbing us. I mean, literally grabbing anyone who looked gay, anyone who was, out on the street. And the GLF people, and there were women involved too, started to really fight back. I mean, just fight back physically. And I was kind of away from the main action, but I could see it. I was like witnessing this action. And the cops had brought out their riot lights. So there was a lot of light going on there. And I saw several guys that I knew from GLF physically opposing the cops. And one of my GLF brothers, a marvelous guy named Bob Bland, who had recently come out and had been involved in heavy-duty anti-war activities, he confronted a cop and scissor kicked him in the face. And this did not go over well, and they grabbed Bob Bland. And Bob Bland is the person being led away in this photograph. That is Bob Bland being led away by the cops. They got him and led him away. And I was just in this state of kind of heavy duty anxiety and euphoria. It's like, my God, we're really doing it here. I didn't expect that things would reach that level, that some of us would physically confront the cops, and there was blood on the street. I mean, like the cops were doing things like, cracking skulls with their nightsticks. There was real, like, I mean, people had to be hospitalized. And one of my gay brothers, he ended up putting the blood on the streets on his cheeks and face. And he went back into the West Village screaming, "Look at me, I've got the blood of my brothers on my face." And like this brought lots of people towards him, like he was on Christopher Street. And it was just this demonstration that we were now serious. I mean, this was a life and death blood situation with the cops. I mean, it made what happened at Stonewall look, kind of prissy, actually. And I think about 16 people from GLF were arrested, and I was not one of them. Luckily, my friend Tom Finley, I don't think he was one of them, but Tom later got arrested at May Day in Washington in 1972 when we had the May Day. Was it 3?
71.
71. Okay. So that was just the next year. Okay. So I went down to Washington for the May Day demonstrations, but I will say nothing I saw in Washington was like what I saw on 8th Street and 6th Avenue in that August. But as I was saying, Tom got arrested in Washington. A number of my GLF brothers got arrested in Washington, but I did not get arrested. I think that this action in August of '70, which was 2 months after the Pride, what we call the Pride March, the Christopher Street Liberation Day March. I mean, it really showed a lot of people how serious the activists in New York were, how serious the guys, and I say guys, the guys and women in GLF were, how serious GAA was, the fact that we were going to stand up for ourselves. And the thing that's interesting about this also is that GLF was very much against hustling and prostitution. We just felt that as an anti-capitalist organization, prostitution was like at the apex of the capitalist group of sins, of what was wrong with capitalism, was forcing people, especially third world people, into prostitution. We were very much against that. Whereas the guys from the Gay Activist Alliance, who were much more libertarian, their attitude was, okay, so you want to sell your body, that's your business. But our attitude in GLF was that you shouldn't be forced to sell your body. You shouldn't ever have to do this. So we were very much against hustling and prostitution. But we also felt that a lot of the men who were the real victims of prostitution were guys who were in the closet. And we had to do something for these men. We had to, fight their being arrested. We had to have some empathy for them. And I think that was part of the genius of GLF, that we could go outside of our own comfort range and say, we will put our bodies on the line for people who would probably never support us because they're in the closet, but we have to have empathy for them.
Thank you. Who's one person you would like to highlight? I know you mentioned a couple names already, but is there anyone from those days that you want to highlight and give visibility to?
Well, I mentioned Bob Bland, who died fairly, well, I say at this point, he probably died about 8 years ago. But Bob is somebody who I wish would be more remembered. But the person that I always want to remember is Michael Brown. Michael Brown was one of the first people to get involved in GLF. He came from a working class union background. He became a voice of the Gay Liberation Front. In fact, the New York Times used to have what they call the quote of the day in every issue of the New York Times. And they had a quote from Michael Brown that said something like, that after Stonewall, the world will never be the same. So I would love to remember Michael Brown. And there are pictures of Michael Brown. In fact, in this picture right here on the come out reader. Michael Brown is this man right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that is Michael Brown right there. And he was one of my favorite people from that first year of GLF.
Thank you, Perry. That's a very
Could I
interesting.
just say, Perry, thank you. Uh, Stonewall inspired GLF in California.
Yes,
That's what got Berkeley. That's those college guys got that from you and Stonewall.
it
So that inspired
inspired
us.
GLF in London.
Thank you.
Yeah, all over
Can
the
I just
world.
mention one other thing? And that is that now in New York at a place called a gallery called Printed Matter, there is a show about the Gay Liberation Front, Third World Gay Revolution, other aspects of gay radicalism in the late 60s, early 70s. And it is, I don't know if you're going to get over to see the show, but it's a fabulous show. It's at a place called Printed Matter, 231 11th Avenue, which is 11th Avenue at 26th Street. And on Wednesday, August 29th,
October.
Flavia Rondo and I will be talking with you, with August, about GLF from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m.
Great. Everyone who can go needs to be there. So we'll go to Warren now. In DC, you had the Gay Liberation Front in some ways under the shadow or under the so close to the federal government. Can you talk about the relationship between, gay liberation and being in the nation's capital? And then, of course, we can talk about the APA convention.
Right. Yeah, eventually I will be talking about the American Psychiatric Association conference demonstration we had in May of 1971. But we were, this is my dog, Chala. We were in the nation's capital, the bowel of the country at the time, and Richard Nixon was the president at the time, which was very difficult in many ways. But I just want to first pick up on something that Harara talked about the public discourse about us, the hegemony that the society had perpetrated about who we are and who we were. And I came up with this saying a while ago that a major tenet of liberation is having the power and the freedom to define oneself. We didn't have the power to define ourselves at that time. Harara was talking about religious institution, calling us sinners and heretics and God haters. Politicians and the law consider us to be criminals, subversives, anti-American. They called us perverts. And the thing that I'm going to be concentrating on mainly today is how the medical and psychological professions defined us as physically different, as sick, as deformed, as insane, mentally ill, neurotic, pathological, abnormal, deranged, and subhuman. And it was very difficult, as Harara was talking about, not to internalize societal notions of ourselves. And in the Gay Liberation Front in Washington, D.C., in the early 70s, we did a lot of work on ourselves to trying to get these tapes that we had learned about ourselves within the society and change those tapes, erase those negative tapes of ourselves and try to have some positive tapes. One of the things, we had these consciousness raising groups. We were basically, the Gay Liberation Front in Washington was based on second wave feminism. Feminists taught us so much about the society, about how we had internalized our own oppression. And we used what second wave feminists talked about were consciousness raising groups, that we didn't have a leader, but these were like self-therapy groups that we would sit around and discuss how we had inhibited our ability to be a real person. As Harry Hay would say, to put on that ugly green frog skin of conformity, covering up who we really were. I mean, Harry Hay probably would be the person I would say we need to know more about Harry Hay. He was just, I mean, he started the Radical Fairies out of gay liberation. He was also a member of the Homophile League
He was
with
there before we
Mattachine.
were.
Yeah, before us, his shoulders we stood on, you know, and Del Martin and Phyllis Lyons, the Homophile League. So we can't look at the Gay Liberation Front without the context of who came before us as well. So in these consciousness raising groups, we started to deal with our own internalized oppression. And Harara was talking about how it was difficult to have sex with someone of our own sex because we had been raised how it's perverted, how it's sick, how it's dirty. We read this wonderful book, a wonderful essay, which I think was from Gay Sunshine. And I'll say it here: How to Get Fucked and Like It. We never learned in our sex education class, which was basically, you know, in high school, you don't have sex until you get married to someone of another sex and blah, blah, blah. We never were taught, you know, how to have anal intercourse, you know, and we read this article from Gay Sunshine, How to Get Fucked and Like It, you know,
think Edward Field wrote that.
Pardon?
I think Edward Field wrote that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we handed around this article and we discussed it in our consciousness raising class, in our Gay Liberation Front meetings in Washington, D.C. And to me, one of the major tenets of liberation is having the freedom and the power to define ourselves. And before I went into Gay Liberation Front, with that is yet to train. Before going into Gay Liberation Front, we were considered a diagnosis. Through Gay Liberation Front, we became an identity. That to me was so freeing. We went from a medical or a political or a legal diagnosis to a verified identity. Because the whole thing about being homosexual or heterosexual or bisexual is a social construction. There were no homosexuals before the mid-19th century. One of the preeminent queer historians, John D'Amelio, talks about how the whole notion of homosexuality was invented in the 19th century by in the capitalist industrial age, that they had before then. We had same-sex sexuality, but then the medical profession invented the homosexual. They invented it. It's a social construction. There was no such thing as a homosexual before the mid, 1800s.
Yeah.
So we were this diagnosis, and we started to deconstruct these notions within a gay liberation, within a feminist, within a radical lesbian space, that we contested these definitions, and we formed these bona fide identities. And the issue I wanted to talk about today was, I lived in DC, and we said the revolution came to us. It was great. I mean, we joined with Vietnam vets against the war to protest the Vietnam War in front of the Capitol building, with Vietnam vets. We demonstrated against the Venceremos Brigade, which was this group in the United States supporting the dictatorship of Fidel Castro, who put queer people in prisons.
Yeah.
So we demonstrated against them. But during the May Day demonstrations in 1971, I was a member of the Gay May Day Coordinating Committee. And we came to Washington. We coordinated housing for other queer people who were coming to Washington. And we did this. Our major demonstration was we slept in a church, a free church in Georgetown.
I think I was in that church. I slept there with you.
Yeah, I think that's where I think we met each other.
Could have been.
Yes.
I was so much younger. I tell you.
No, I'm 78.
Yeah.
How old are you? Huh?
So am I.
So much
I'm
younger.
75.
Yeah. Okay. So
August, you're how old?
He's 78 too.
31.
78?
Yeah, no, August. August is 31.
Yeah.
All right. How old are you, August?
31.
Yeah.
We slept in that church. We got up at dawn.
Yeah.
We snuck to the parkway, the Rock Creek Parkway. And our demonstration was we sat in the Rock Creek Parkway was the major, a major thoroughfare that workers would come into Washington. So we sat on the parkway and stopped traffic until the police came. We got up and then we sat in another place of the parkway. But during that time, coincidentally, right before May Day, May 1st, 1971, was the American Psychiatric Association's national annual conference at the Shoreham Hotel. And at this time, the American Psychiatric Association had defined in their diagnostic and statistical manual.
DSM-3, I think.
Let me see, I have it right here. Let me see back. Okay. Okay, in 1952, in their Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 1, homosexuality was called a sociopathic personality disorder.
Sure.
1968, in their Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 2, it was a sexual orientation disorder. And I have, a lot of background stuff in that, but I'm not going to go through that right now. But basically, they were meeting, and we found out they were meeting there. So we were planning to do a demonstration there because the year before in San Francisco, at their annual conference, there was a gay liberation protest there, and some of the protesters actually got in. So there was a compromise. The organizers of the next year said that they would allow a panel discussion in a small workshop dealing with non-therapied, people, LGBT people who were not in therapy, who would give a demonstration, a workshop on feeling good about being gay. So there was 3 people who were chosen for that workshop. Barbara Giddings, who was the chair of the Daughters of Bilitis in Philadelphia. Jack Baker, who was the first out university student body president in the University of Minnesota. And our good friend and mentor in many ways, Frank Kameny, from the Mattachine Society in Washington, D.C. They were our Trojan horse. I spoke a few times on a panel with um, DOB before, so I knew her. I knew Franklin. We were friends basically. Barbara Giddings and I had become acquainted by speaking on some panels before, and I just met Jack Baker. So we negotiated with them that they would be in the main plenary where only members of the Psychiatric Association and their guest speakers would be there. So we went to the Shoreham Hotel the night before, and we went through the parkway, and we put this book of matches in the locked door, and we put it in there so that it wouldn't lock. And there were many of us from Gay Liberation Front in Washington, D.C., and also many people from out of town who were there for the May Day demonstrations.
Yeah.
So we had all these, people, dressed up, flaunting. It's better to be, flagrant than latent.
I was there also.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had no idea what was going to happen then. And the idea that you'd have Gay May Day, first, all of May Day, this huge demonstration, Gay May Day, with guys and women from all over the country coming into Washington, and then the shrinks. It was spectacular.
Spectacular. So we went in there. We came in the back door through the parkway. We went into the lobby. At a certain time, our Trojan horse of Barbara Giddings and Jack Baker and Franklin Kameny, they opened wide the doors to this grand ballroom in the Shoreham Hotel, and in walked the queens. And we just overtook the places. There's actually recorded footage of this in this 2020 film called Cured, that some of us are shown in the film in Cured in demonstrating. Now, in the front row of the plenary session were these old men, all old white men with these medallions around their chests, gold medallions for their 93 years of service and blah, blah, blah. They were being honored. So we walked in right in front of them, and they started hitting us. You're sick, with their medallions, with their gold medallion. You're sick. We're sick. You're hitting us with your medallions, and we're sick. And I yelled at it. That's projection. It's like they're psychiatrists. They should know what projection means. So we get towards the stage. Former Attorney General Ramsey Clark is on stage giving the plenary address. The Secret Service grabbed him, and Franklin Kameny jumps to the stage and gets to the microphone before they shut it off. He said, "We are here to declare war on the psychiatric profession. We're here to declare war."
God.
And then they shut the microphone off. And then, the police started coming in, and we joined hands so they wouldn't, whatever. And they finally, got us out of there. I don't remember any arrests, and this was like, big news in the queer journals.
Can I just ask, how many of there were you?
Oh, probably 40, maybe 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were there were several members of GLF at the time. There were like probably 40 members of GLF. Not all of them were able to come, but also we did have the LGBT people from around the country joining us for May Day. This is where I met a lot of people, because we coordinated the Gay May Day demonstration. I don't know if, Perry, you were in in the tents on the mall in front of the
That was in
Lincoln
the tent.
Memorial. We had a Gay Liberation Front tent
I know.
that was set aside for people who wanted to have sex in front of Lincoln, and in front of it was outrageous. It
My
was
God, how
outrageous.
out of control.
Exactly.
I
The
wrote.
next year, the conference was in Dallas, Texas, again with Frank Kameny and Barbara Giddings, and there was an out psychiatrist who wore this Nixon mask. He was Dr. H. Homosexual. And he talked about being within the American Psychiatric Association. 1 year later, 1973, the subcommittee of the body of the American Psychiatric Association voted that we were no longer sick if we felt comfortable with who we are. So one day I was sick. The next day, this panel votes, I'm no longer sick. So not only are we discussing the social construction of identity, we are looking at the social construction of disease as well.
Thank
Sure.
you. Do you mind spending?
Beautiful. That's a wonderful story.
Do you mind
That
spending?
story, I think that should be called the Battle of the Psychiatric Association.
Do you mind
It's
spending
famous.
spending
Thank
a
you.
moment just talking about one person from the back in that time you want to give visibility to?
Bruce Pennington,
Yes.
who was a primary member of the Gay Liberation Front, and we had a house, 1620 S Street in Northwest Washington. And when I first moved to Washington, the house had already been established, and I walked in, and he was there dressed, with his full beard, makeup, dress, and he looked at me and he said, "Welcome to the gay milieu of Washington." Bruce was, if I ever wanted to have a smile put on my face, Bruce Pennington seemed not to have internalized a lot of the crap that I had internalized. And also my good friend, Michael Ferry. Michael Ferry he's still alive in Washington State, brilliant. And he was the editor of, August, I gave you a copy of the Motive magazine.
Right.
Michael Ferry was the editor of Motive magazine. It's an Episcopal magazine that their last issues were a gay men's liberation and a lesbian double issue.
Yeah.
And Michael edited the gay men's issue.
Right.
That has Perry Brass's poetry in it.
Right.
It had an article I wrote. I was also the director and founder of the National Gay Student Center in DC, that I went around the country helping student groups on campus form LGBT chapters around the country. So Bruce Pennington and Michael Ferry, I would really like to single out.
Here's a
Thank you.
article I wrote for Come Out about Gay May Day. So you can.
Is this, which issue is this? What's the name of this book again?
No, it was the GLF newspaper is called Come Out, and we have now the Come Out reader. You can order that through.
I wrote that down.
Okay, through Blurb, but it has all the issues that come up, and we did this huge, or actually, I wrote this big account of Gay May Day for Come Out, and it's one of the few. I think it may be the only written down account of Gay May Day, unless. Warren, you know of another one.
Yeah, we wrote some, and also
You did write some.
Stonewall Project in DC has a whole website. We were interviewed
Yeah,
by the Queer History Project in
yeah.
DC. So there's a whole website
Good,
on Gay May Day
good.
in Washington.
Yeah.
So I just have a few quick questions, can be like a conversation, but just a couple minutes because I do want to go into Q&A. So someone named Don Kilhefner, who was in the Los Angeles Gay Liberation Front, says it's important to not to call it homophobia, but heterosupremacy. Can you talk about the difference between those two, and if you agree or not?
I don't
Wait, what
call it
was that
homophobia.
again? The difference between what?
Homophobia and heterosupremacy.
I call it heteronationalism. And homophobia, as we know in psychology, a phobia is irrational fear. This is not irrational. It's taught, it's learned. It's not like being afraid of spiders or elevators. That's not what we're talking about.
Yes, I agree with you.
Hetero nationalism is it's like white supremacy. It's like Christian nationalism. We have to put it in the same context as a form of oppression, not as an irrational fear.
And one of the first things I learned in GLF was that at the top of all of this, on top of all of this, was patriarchy. So you have this isosceles triangle with I'm trying to think how you with at the top of it is patriarchy, on the left corner of it is sexism, and on the right corner of it is homophobia. And it's because we're considered traitors to patriarchy. Sexism was one of the main ways of preserving, keeping, encouraging patriarchy. Queers and lesbians are traitors to this, this form of enforcement that men will always be on the top, women will be on the bottom, and people who don't define themselves through the traditional roles, we have to be eliminated. And I think the elimination was incredibly thorough through most of certainly American history, but that we got this, I think, from the English. I really think we got so much of it from the English because the French had already legalized homosexuality through the Napoleonic Code, which the English would never go near. I mean, England was just hell on us.
We can't take out Christianity from
Absolutely,
this.
totally.
I mean, from the 3rd century in Rome, when Christianity became the major state-supported religion, so I put it all together: patriarchal, heteronational, Christian white supremacy. It's all interconnected.
I agree. Wonderful.
Tahara, do you see the right's attack on trans people to be the entryway to oppressing all LGBTQ people?
Uh, Say that again. Do I see the trans people doing?
Do you
The attack on trans people is an
see,
attack on everybody.
do you see it as being the entryway?
The entryway
For
for
basically
what?
reestablishing
The
homophobia.
entryway for what?
For
Taking,
reestablishing homophobia. I mean, tearing apart any gay rights we have.
Well, look who's in charge. I mean, we've got Adolf Trump telling us who we are now. They took those transgender off Stonewall Monument. That I mean, like anyway. But say that question again. I have to think about it, and it's one of these questions. Like I'll be honest, I just still quite haven't figured out what cisgender is, and I think I've got transgender down okay. And I think now you can say trans. You don't have to say the whole thing transgender. So that's where I'm at well, with what did you call it? Homophobia versus heterosexual normalcy or something? Is that what
Heteronationalism.
huh?
I call it heteronationalism.
Oh, heteronationalism.
My
I
bad.
But
hate it
I
all.
think
I hate it all. I hate it all.
I would go
I'm sick
back
of it. Huh?
before trans people lately have been attacked. I think it came about earlier by going after women and reproductive freedoms.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it's all
yeah.
connected. The same person that wants to own a woman's body is the same person who wants to own my body, who wants to own a trans body. All of these are really interconnected. Are the same people who want to own persons of color's body, of immigrants' body. We can't pull out one particular form because autocracy functions on making internal enemies. So the woman who wants to control her body is an internal enemy.
Yeah, the
The
feminist.
gay person who wants to have sex with someone of their same sex or other sexes, that's the enemy. Trans people are the enemy. Immigrants are the enemy. People of color are the enemy. People with disabilities are the enemy. Now they're going after trying to cure autism. Just don't take ibuprofen and you won't have any more of those weird autistic people. It's all the same. It's the embodiment of our of ourselves that they are villainizing.
But it's nothing new. They
No,
had it in Nazi Germany. They had it in Cambodia. They had it in Rwanda. It's all the same. It's still happening. It's just happening to us now. But we're paving. We're paving. We're moving forward. Look at what GLF was in the days we were in it when we had so little, and now how it is. You've got all over the world pride parades, and it's
Because
really
we gave them permission. We were the
and
model that gave them
freed them,
permission.
but not us. The inspiration we had, we were tired of it.
Perry,
Why not? Why not?
how did you
One
respond?
thing, August, I'd like to mention, which I feel is important, talking about gay liberation. This is 1969 in Berkeley. Uh, being all the it was mostly men. The women didn't join, lesbians didn't join the gay men very much. It was kind of mostly gay men, and then the lesbians did their own thing. But at the demonstrations, they would come together. But there were not a lot of lesbians, and mostly gay men in the Gay Liberation Front. But all the people that came were struggling, like I was, with dealing with their sexuality and how what it meant and how it worked. And of course, all these men, most of them, I would say, had been rejected by their families,
Yes.
and so they had nobody they could fall back on, and they had given up friends and things like that. And so there were some, and the big thing at that time in Berkeley gay liberation was you have to come out, come out, come out, be who you are. And it was very difficult to come out. It was very difficult. I told friends I was interested. But I didn't tell my family at all. I didn't tell them until I was 20 years later. But it was very difficult to come out, and some people didn't seem to have as much trouble. They had parents that were not hated them or anything. But there were some people in gay liberation. There was one man named Mother Boats. Everybody called him Mother Boats. Have you heard of him? He's not very well known. He was a fun guy though, and he decided to come out, and everybody said, write your mother and tell her you're gay. And he wrote her, And she wrote back this 3-page handwritten letter. And it was as dark and as betrayed abomination as you could get. And they had Gay Liberation, Gary Allender and Gay Liberation were publishing Gay Sunshine by that time, and they published her letter in an issue of Gay Sunshine. And a week later, he killed himself.
I think I remember that story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Was the letter called something like Letter from a California Mother?
I think that was it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
it was
that.
in Gay Sunshine.
Uh, August, can
Nobody
I ask another
expected his
question?
death.
Yeah.
There was another man in Gay Liberation too. His name was Preston, and he was studying psychiatry, I think, or a young guy. And he became, when he came out, he became despondent and he hung himself. And that, I'm just, the only reason I'm saying this is because Gay Liberation wasn't just a lot of fun. We're here, we're queer, everybody loves us. There was a lot of difficult times.
Perry,
I never went to
um,
jail. Did either of you go to jail? You did?
I went to
Perry,
jail in the Gay Liberation group. We were marching towards the South Vietnam embassy during May Day, and we were holding hands, walking in the middle of the street, and the police arrested us, called us all these names before we even got to the embassy. And we were 6 people put in a 2-person cell, 98 degrees all night. And I have claustrophobia, so we
Oh,
just held each other in this really hot, stuffy cell all night. And, that's one of the risks
were
you
you
take when
naked?
you do demonstration.
Were you naked?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I had a t-shirt on and shorts, but I was hot.
oh, it was hot. It was really hot.
No,
Perry.
I was hot.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Perry,
August, you still have a question?
I have a question. Perry, so back in the day, how did you respond to people who thought you were too radical? Or was your entire world just radical people?
I usually, there were people who thought I was too radical, and they were what we used to call bougie. And my main feeling was give these people about 5 years and they'll be on my side. And a lot of the times that did happen. But mostly what I did was uh, I felt like, why wasn't everyone doing what we were doing? It wasn't so much that we were too radical. It was like, why the hell were they holding on to their own oppression? And then I've told people this. It took me about 30 years to understand it wasn't so much that they were holding on to their own oppression. They were holding on to everything else that they had. They were holding on to their paychecks, their fear that they'd never be employed again. There were their own fears. I mean, like they had become just controlled by their own fears, and they had this huge fear of what was going to happen if they did come out, if anyone knew about them. They would be rejected by their families. I had no problems with that. I had no problems with being rejected by my family because I had rejected them by the time I was 15 or 16 years old. I decided that what I was too significant to be controlled by my family.
Good for you.
Thank
I
you.
They
go around
put
the
you in a psychiatric hospital?
I'm sorry?
Did they put you in a psychiatric hospital?
Oh, are you joking?
I
I would have bit their balls off. I tell you, I was a pesky kid. I was not going to allow shit to happen to me. I tried to kill myself at 15, and once I recovered from that, it was like, okay, all bets are off. I'm going to be in control now.
Were you living in New York then, or?
No, I was living in Savannah, Georgia,
Oh my God.
which was extremely, this
Y'all,
totally
how y'all
segregated
doing?
society.
How y'all doing?
How y'all doing? Yeah, exactly.
I've gone around the country at workshops doing workshops specifically on internalized depression for minoritized peoples who have incorporated those messages from society. And many people at those workshops don't understand how much they've internalized.
Oh,
And sometimes I don't have enough Kleenex boxes. People are just weeping when they start to see. I mean, it's in some ways, we come out, we're activists, we're out there doing it. We got to do the internal work as well. We can't just do the activist work. We gotta change those. When I was 4 years old, my parents sent me to see a psychiatrist,
mm-hmm.
psychologist. 4 years old until I was 13. Twice a week, I was taken out of my classes, brought to the psychologist for the express purpose of making sure that I did not grow up to be gay. I was, quote unquote, effeminate at age 1.5, they said. So they thought I was gay at age 1.5. So basically, for 9 years, I was taken to the psychiatrist. When I got there, he told my parents, don't let me wash the dishes, only to take out the garbage, because garbage is manly. And, doing the dishes is feminine. It was so binary gender roles. And then when I didn't even know why I was there and I didn't talk to the guy, he said, okay. He took down a model airplane or a boat or a truck, and for the next 50 minutes, we would construct this model toy, whatever, which, was more, masculine than if I played with dolls. I wanted to play with dolls. What's the thing?
Yeah,
So when you are brought up in a family that you think you are the symptom, it's hard not to internalize that.
absolutely.
And you're coming out gay on top of it.
It was like, so what else is new when I came out to them?
Why were
Yeah,
they
we
so
know.
anti-gay? That's just really weird to think a 1.5-year-old child, they can tell it's gay. It sounds really weird,
This was
like a
during the
cult or
McCarthy
something,
period.
like a cult.
This was like
Rosemary Baby.
this was 1949, 1950.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow.
That was the norm at the time.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing was that they completely conflated homosexuality with communism when no
Oh,
group of people hated queers more than the communists. I mean, it's like
yeah, I know.
it's like whatever they didn't like, they all put them together, like communism, queers, blacks. If you were for integration, you had to be a communist. If you
Well,
were
it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. It's
But
an
the communists didn't
abomination.
believe in the Bible, so
They
it was
believe
it was
that.
a
I don't know
matter
why.
of capitalist what was that bourgeois capitalist degradation, and it was a sign of communism from the capitalists.
right, exactly.
Well, the thing they don't understand is the Republicans at that time wrote it and put it in the Bible. So that's why it's there. They had Republicans in those days. They were some other name, but it was the same group.
But I tell my students, this is everything Jesus ever said about homosexuality. Right
Absolutely.
there, right there.
I
Um,
didn't see anything.
August.
when you look back, is there anything you would do differently in the gay liberation movement? Anything that comes to mind?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What I would do, what I think we should have embraced more working people. We should have seen, not looked at people simply by their attitudes. I was approached by gay cops, and I was just horrible to them. I thought, how can you be a cop and be gay? I should have been more supportive of them. This is a long time back. Uh, we should have worked more to realize that the human struggle to survive is so difficult that we were in a privileged position that we could do what we did and still survive. And a lot of people just didn't have that privilege.
Very well said, Harry.
Thank you.
And
You were very brave also. All of you, all of us were very brave, but what did we have to lose?
Absolutely.
That's it.
And it was the time for it too.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted more freedom. Black women. It was a
What
beautiful time, but I think now it's a little more frightening. I don't know. What do you think nowadays?
what I would have changed is that we were trying to defeat binary thinking while also practicing it. And the way that I practice binary thinking is that if you were in the military and supporting the war, um, that you were against us in
Yeah.
many ways.
Absolutely.
And I learned I was wrong marching alongside Vietnam vets against the war. I started seeing them as allies. I started seeing them not any longer the enemy.
Yeah.
They were mainly working class people who didn't have any other options in the society than to join the military.
No.
So they taught me a lot about non-linear, non-binary thinking.
Yeah. I think things are scarier now because so many people are under a kind of economic duress that it's hard for us even to imagine it. I mean, there's something like 30 million people in America who are 3 paychecks away from being homeless. There are another 30 million who have no uh, health insurance at all. I mean, a trip to the emergency room would bankrupt them. Uh,
Me included.
yeah. So, you know, things are black, white, and horrible for a lot of people.
how did not having money back then play into the we're all in it together spirit? Because, rent was so much cheaper back then. How did that affect the climate?
We were also a lot younger. You have to understand that the whole movement, most of the people in the movement, certainly in my time in GLF, were under 30. So the kind of horrible health consequences that come on later were just completely foreign to us. I mean, I had no health insurance. I didn't care. I mean, I just put a Band-Aid on anything. Uh, Food and rent in New York. New York at that point was probably the cheapest of all the world cities. It was cheaper than living in London. It's cheaper than living in Paris, cheaper living than Rome. I mean, of all the great world cities, New York was the cheapest. So you could live in this great sophisticated world city under a kind of money situation that allowed you to do what you wanted to do.
I
Uh,
slept under my desk
It's a
in
lot
the
of fun too.
yeah. I slept under my desk in the National Student Association, or I crashed on the floor of the GLF house.
Yeah,
Um, and it was the thing that I'm grateful for is that it was still a time that people connected personally. We
yes,
didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. People went to each other's homes. We talked with one another face to face. And that really created a more unified sense of community. We were in the community literally. We
yes,
weren't in it virtually.
yeah,
Well, I came to California to Berkeley in 69, and at that time it was the hippies were there, and they had a thing called crash pads where,
Yeah.
if you were from some other place, you'd
Mhm.
meet some people and they say you can stay with us. And be like 7 or 8 people in a room, all in a house, uh, and there was bedding, and they were kind of stable. You could go back night after night, and you got to sort of be roommates, but nobody had much money, and there'd be somebody that would pay the rent, and the rents were cheap then. So I stayed in that mostly when I was in gay liberation. But then after I'd been out here, 7 or 8 months, I finally got into a house with a group of people that uh, were not crash pads. Crash pad people are always coming and going. I'm surprised we didn't have crabs all the time. We never had crabs. I don't remember any of that. But I moved into a house where it was just a regular group of people, and I still didn't have any money, and somebody paid the rent, and then I lived there, and that's kind of how I survived until. But panhandling. Did you either of you ever panhandle?
No, I never did that. I did enough other things, but I didn't do
I
that.
had to live by panhandling, and then finally I got on what they called aid to the totally disabled. It was a government program, federal government with California input for people who were insane.
Yeah.
And they decided I was insane. But anyway, they gave me that. And
They used
that
to
was,
call it crazy welfare.
yeah, but that was only 3 years after I came here. During the whole time, I lived in group housing
Yeah.
with other people, and somebody paid the rent, and we all were doing theaters, so we had a common purpose. So that was the reason. But it was a lot easier to survive in those days, I think, than it wasn't as expensive, or there was a
We
lot
also
more.
got food
People
stamps.
tended to, young people, especially living together in groups, could cut down expenses, all that stuff. So it was fun. Frightening. I had a couple of freakouts on LSD when I was in gay liberation, and uh, those were horrible.
August, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I don't know everyone's energy level, but maybe we could just each answer one more question. What would you like? This is multi-part, but what would you say to all of the people who are younger who aren't awake right now?
Aren't
What's the
awake.
question again on the what?
Aren't awake, who aren't doing something with what's going on, who aren't aware, don't think it affects them. What would you say to those people?
I would say just wait a year and see how it's going to affect you. That's what I. But don't wait a year because it is going to affect you. And the other thing is uh, we have this terrible confluence now of anxiety and uh, uh, geez, I'm sorry, I missed that. Lost the word. Anxiety on one side and complacency on the other. That's what I wanted to say. We have this confluence of anxiety and complacency. The people are very economically anxious, but they, because of our media saturated culture, it makes you very complacent. There's nothing I can really do about this. It's overwhelming to me, and uh, you know that's a road to your own destruction and ruin. And I think I would say to people, don't get caught up in that. That's you've got to become active. You've got to do something for yourself and for others you care about.
I'd like to take the other side of it, that am a college professor, and I'm around young people, and they have given me this optimism with their feisty resistance, with their refusal to follow the binary stereotypes of male, female, cisgender, transgender. They're teaching me all the time about the real changes that are happening even within this fascist government that we are living in, they gave me the language to self-define. I no longer call myself gay. I've never felt male and I've never felt female, but I was always in this, in considered to be, a gay man. I've They gave me the language to call myself. I just came out like 5 years ago, another closet of being agender. I don't I don't relate to the concept of the social construction of gender, that
Mm-hmm.
we are put in these boxes of male or female. I've never felt either. So why do I have to claim either?
Well,
So,
that is defined, they believe, by your testicles or your vagina.
and they taught me that that doesn't have to be,
Correct.
that I don't have to define myself because I have a protrusion instead of the other way in between my legs. It doesn't define me. It never really did, and I don't have to claim that
But
anymore. So,
if you did not tell them that, they would define you by your sex organ. They don't know that themselves, but you tell them that now,
I
and
tell them that,
maybe
and if they
that's.
still want to consider me male, my parents considered to me effeminate. What is effeminate? What does that mean? It means that I'm not living up to the expression of masculinity, but
Expectation.
expectations.
Right.
Really, I it's like I put on what I feel like I want to put on that day. I don't think about, do I want to look butch today, or I couldn't anyway, but do I want to look butch today, or do I want to look femme today? I just put on what I feel comfortable.
Well,
And young
America is
people,
obsessed with sex.
right, but young people, I think are helping me anyway get out of those binaries. And I see a bright future because of the young people today
I
that
agree about
they
there are a lot of
that
them. There are a lot of young people who are amazing, who are
yes,
absolutely amazing, and I'm learning a lot from them myself. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, you also have the young Republicans, the young militias, and all, but they are amazing. Yes, I agree.
And
Well, the problem nowadays, go ahead.
we stood on the shoulders of the Homophile League. They stood on the shoulders of people in Germany in the 1890s, a scientific humanitarian committee, and they are standing on our shoulders now.
Absolutely.
And in some ways, we never had to think about, pronouns. That was, we wanted to stay alive. We wanted to not get killed. We've given them the luxury of thinking about, mispronouncing, which
Exactly.
is great. And that is because we have paved a way for them now to fight for being correctly pronounced.
Well, I was talking to one of these people that didn't like all the transgender and stuff, but she said if they were as conservative as Caitlyn Jenner, she would be okay with them.
And my answer to that, it's not your privilege to be against trans people. You're not going to define what a trans person is. Get over it, grow up.
My thing though is like I know a bunch of people who are woke, but they're not doing anything.
I
Like
agree.
they have these ideas like you're talking about Warren and it's all nice and helpful, but they're just talking and not doing anything. Of course,
Are
there's
they
people
employees? Are they employees?
I don't get it.
Are they employees
Of what?
of some
Are they going to
dull,
lose their
repetitive
job if they do
jobs
it?
or things? Because that happens a lot to employees. They just lose the spirit and become habitual and stuff,
I,
maybe.
I'm a Holocaust scholar. My grandfather lost his entire family, and he lived with
I'm
us. And I
sorry.
was I was named after my great grandfather, who was murdered by the Nazis. And one of the things we learned about the Holocaust it's not so much those who are against us, but it's the people who know what's going on and do nothing. The bystanders have the balance of power within any republic, any country, and any kind of a trauma. If the bystanders become active, we can stop all of this crap that's going on in the world. But many of my students, I once or twice a week, I get these letters from the health center at my university saying, I'm sorry, but blank won't be able to complete their assignment for the next few weeks because she's in a mental hospital. I get this all the time. We're amongst a traumatized generation from COVID, from what's going on in our country right now. And for those who want to do something, you can't do something until you have something to give. If people don't have something to give and aren't doing anything, that's fine. You do it when you have something to give. And some people right now are so in a state of anxiety and trauma. I get why they're not
But
being
those
active.
who can should do
Yes,
something,
yes.
not just sit quietly. But here's the problem. I know a lot of people, they don't like to get involved in politics. They lose friends. They don't get invited. They feel guilty about going to places and stuff like that. So a lot of young people also have jobs, which when I was young, nobody had a job. Uh, so it's changed a lot. They have to work. To rent a place now is thousands of dollars. It's not cheap anymore. So, but these people that don't do anything, at least here in San Francisco, even if they don't do anything, they're on the right side. So you can, at least if they vote or something, I'm not saying voting is the answer because you know how that is. But we're a very liberal city, and so we have a lot of support. But New York's also very liberal, I believe, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
somewhat.
So, but I don't like it. I try to encourage. I'm extremely still very rebellious and very open-mouthed about it, especially on Facebook. I've been kicked off 9 times for insubordination. And but I had a good friend back who was a early gay pioneer also, a little bit after me, but he was one of the creators of the rainbow flag, the pride flag, the rainbow, back in those days. And he would always say, make make do it on their dime. He'd say, don't, if you get kicked off, go back and post more radical stuff. Do it on their dime. So instead of getting offended and saying I'm not going to, I kept doing it. Well, and I've learned how to do it now. They don't throw you off anymore. Now everything's okay to say on Facebook, as long as you don't threaten anybody, directly. But uh, so I've been protesting a lot on Facebook, all this radical stuff constantly because of the situation. Uh, but
Well,
it's but nobody else wants to do that. I have like 2 friends on Facebook. I have 400
But
friends and only 2 people who speak to me. I don't know, but
but
but I think all the people I am friends with, I know that what side they're on. I get a lot of these people in Colorado, Oklahoma, Virginia, places like that that are, fanatic Trump guys. And I noticed a lot of them are ex-military. And their wives, a lot of them, for some reason, have long blonde hair. But as the wives get older, they become more frizzled and frazzled looking and wrinkled. Uh, and the men, a lot of the men wear camouflage camouflage hunting jackets. They got their passions are guns, sports, cars, and boats. And hunting. Hunting is huge,
Well,
Bag of deer.
There's two things that I would recommend, though. One, for the queer people out there, even if you're not out there active, take your emotional temperature. Try to think of the ways that you've internalized some of those negative notions of who you are within yourself to try to heal. And number two, learn our history. And I really want to thank August for specifically focusing on the gay liberation front. You are getting into the nuances. You're bringing out the people and the events that happened. And I'm really grateful to you and your project that is saving our history. Because the older I get, I realize I have a history. I was a part of queer history. And I really admire the history projects who are resurrecting this history so it's not lost to all time.
well, thank you, Warren, and thank you everyone for attending and participating. Like Perry mentioned, October 29th, 6 p.m., Printed Matter, somewhere in Chelsea.
It's at 231 11th Avenue. That's 231 11th Avenue at 26th Street. And it's free. There'll be books to be sold, books to be bought, some of my books, other people's books. And I hope that we will have lots of people there. And as usual, I love working with August.
Thank you, Perry. You're the greatest as well. Well, thank you, everyone, and stay tuned. Bye.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet both of you.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
nice day.